pages, Victor there, and this is all about Senate and that uproar regarding CS Moses Kuria, especially on the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza, where they were saying, or he was saying, there are actually no allegations that can stick on Kawira Mwangaza. We know the latest on that particular development, but they're now calling for Moses Kuria's firing, right? That yes, he should be now impeached as it is right now. And this is what also Stano has picked up, senators, and he's working on a tightrope there. Who will go down first? Is it Moses Kuria or the senators in this particular fight? This has been also very feisty on social media. And you can see also today inside the Star as well. You really think it will be a good idea to let him lose outside? Right, and he's a baby there with diapers, and he's soiled up himself, as you can see. And this soiling is actually also smudging that particular beautiful seat of Kenya Kwanza, right? The writing has been on the wall for the CS. Is this now the beginning of the tight road of impeachment for Moses Kuria? Bilokero.
Who is this hiding?
I think that's Moses Kuria. They're saying
hiding outside
it might be more.
It's a guy looking at the corner. Is that the deputy or what?
That's the DP.
Okay.
I think, first, I don't think I have a lot of issues with the tweet that he made, where he was, well, in the language of parliamentarians, casting aspersion on the members of the Senate, because he's an insider and he knows what's going on. And he said, look, there's an attempt to use the following senators to impeach Mwangaza. And I actually think she probably survived because of that, but because it was it's like he said, it's fait accompli. This lady is being targeted, and you guys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and said, don't do it. And somehow we all expected that this thing was political. You remember we discussed, and that she would probably be thrown out because of the politics. But I think they seem to have backtracked, and the lady got away. And so somehow he seems to be the winner in this because he got what he wanted. But I think they will obviously, they don't take it lightly, especially those in government side. And I don't think the president would act on it immediately and get rid of him, but I see him coming under a lot of pressure from those in UDA, that he either toes the line or they deal with him. But it's clearly an indication that he feels he's already not, wanted up there, or he's not in very good books. That's why when you see a leader start talking like that, then he's not already, he started losing favors up there. So it's an indication that he probably feels he's on his way out, so he loses nothing by trying to do what he's doing.
Right, but also the case that is under probe by the EACC regarding the Kenya National Trading Company and the edible oils, when he was at the CS of Trade as well. Will that now be like his Achilles' heels? Maybe if it's political, and if the senators are saying, hey, I think given the spate of pronouncements that have come from this particular CS, maybe it's high time now he actually be shown the door. Yeah? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more.
But one of the things, you see, I feel that our constitution, we need to look at our constitution. Why? Because, the point is that this is meant to be a guideline. The MPs don't follow the guideline. They just say, well, this. But, to my mind, what we've done is, when we actually were voting on this constitution, I remember I was in a meeting with one of the committee of experts, these experts that, I always call them the committee of Wajinga, because, I felt that they've misled the country. But anyway, there was this gentleman talking, and I was there with Kwame Owino. And Kwame was listening, and the gentleman said, okay, we're going to increase our parliament by 50%. We're going to put in a Senate, and not only do you have a man, but if the Senate is a man, then you're going to have a woman representative. If the Senate is a woman, you still have a woman's representative because we've got to have, blah, 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 blah. The Senate, the Senate in the United States, if it was the same size proportionally as ours, it would have 500 people instead of 102, as it is. In every county, we're going to have a governor. We're going to have a county assembly. And, the county assembly, the members of the county assembly are meant to check the spending in that county. Okay, that's their job. They don't know what to do there, though. So, and we have more than 3,000 of those people. And, as many of my friends tell me, we are overrepresented in Kenya. But now, you see, anyway, Kwame said, how do we pay for all of these people? And this gentleman from the Committee of Experts, in page 167 in his book on economics, it says that the counties will generate their own economic resources. Now, I've got a classmate, okay? He became the chief financial officer of Unilever. He worked in Uganda for a number of years. He worked in Rwanda for a number of years. In fact, I think in Rwanda, he's not only the chief financial officer, he was even the chief executive officer. But in Rwanda, the governors are civil servants. And I don't know if you remember, but certainly I remember when Mohammed Badi was appointed the head of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, the NMS. I saw changes in Nairobi within days. He also built a whole lot of hospitals because he realizes, now wait a moment, there are no hospitals in the slums. He built something like 12 hospitals. Now, he is answerable because he is appointed. Now, you have this thing of election, and if I want to get elected in Nairobi, what do? I go to Kibera slums, I go to Korogosho, I go to the Sinai slums, I go to Mathare Valley, and I hand out money to those people. They say, and they will say, you forget it because you're a bloody Mzungu, and your money away. So, but the point is, I won't get elected by, if I go to the University of Nairobi to give a lecture there about my policies, it's a waste of time. Why? Because maybe I can get 300 voters. If I go to Mathare Valley, I can get 3,000 or maybe even 30,000. So what is democracy? That's what, I've got a friend, a very, very clever man, okay? He runs I won't mention names because, I highly respect this man, okay? But I tell you, he says the system in China is what he supports. I said, his name is Martin. Martin, you're talking sense. And, there's no democracy in China, there's this, But look, if our constitution is not giving Kenyans what they need, we've got to look at it and say, hey, if we have a plan for our company, we say, this thing is going the wrong direction. We got to look at it. But we're not doing that.
I'm not sure it's a constitution, McPhee, with all due respect.
Yeah, but why do we have this?
It's the implementation of that constitution.
No, but
SRC is there, as recognized by the constitution.
Okay, and what's happening?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. The constitution to me is cool. It's good. It gives us direction. It gives us beacon. But we have another implementers. I'll call them a bunch of implementers, including the National Assembly, who disregard it. Even Diba gives us, it's here. But who cares?
Yeah.
I think I sympathize with
you don't read it even when I give it. Even when it says you don't really care for yourself.
On the fact that
but it doesn't have to go to China. You don't have to go to China to see. And I believe in what you say. At times, democracy has to be put on hold. I say,
if you remember, at one point, Mwai Kibaki, our president at that time, sent all of the ministers home. And did Kenya come to a grinding halt? In fact, it started working better. So, in this case, you see, the West, we are in fact brainwashed by the Western world. I was listening to a webinar coming out of New York yesterday. Deloitte were doing this, geopolitics.
Oh, you're on that webinar as well? Yes, I agree.
So, you know, the thing is that those people, you know, this head of some guy in the European Union, those people are all brainwashed. They don't know the truth. So, oh, we got to, who is the aggressor here? Putin. You don't know the history of this thing here, you know? So, but Patrick, I think you're going to support me, so let me give it.
No, I was going to say, I meet you halfway, yeah? I think there needs to be some kind of document that guides an organization. Right? Whether it's a constitution, whether it's your article of association, or whatever it is, and so forth. But it is right that on a regular basis, you've got to review whether that is working. Exactly. And I think the key thing for me here is that we had a great constitution. Actually, when it was written, it was, it was actually heralded as one of the best because it combined all the best practices into one document.
Right.
That is always a worry. When you pick up all the best practices and put them in one document, they may not necessarily gel together. They may actually talk against each other when you put them in one place. And the biggest worry is that it talked about the people. And when you talk about the people, and then the people you elect are talking on behalf of the people, you have a situation where the people are completely disenfranchised. Because at this point, where the voice of the people, which is parliament, are actually sending the country in the wrong way, how are the people able to stop what their elected representatives are doing? The process of recalling an MP was made extremely difficult. And it's going to be made more and more difficult. If you try, it will be made more difficult. So what the situation is that, yes, we've got a great document, but we cannot hold the people who have been put in there accountable. Shareholders in a company can come in and raise hell with the company, right? And remove the management completely and bring somebody else and the board. Shareholders have got that power at the AGM.
Yes.
But where is the AGM that allows me, Patrick Obath, to go and recall my MP and remove them, right? And remove the whole of parliament? Can a country rise against its own assembly? You will be seen to be treasonable if you try talking about that kind of thing. So I think that the constitution is great, but the method of holding the leaders to account is lacking, seriously lacking. And when you then go to what Jim likes in talking about China, the leadership there is basically absolute, and they've got a very clear political way of running the country. What China did right was to actually then bring in a capitalist model for the economy, right? And the politics still stays as politics. And it is not very often that you see China as the political side interfering with the economy, because they realized a long time ago that their socialist economy that they had before was not working. So they've got this blend. Yeah. So even in a democracy, unless you have a way of really holding the people who want to increase their salaries, do this, do that, the other, if you can't hold them to account within the constitution, then that constitution must be changed. So that there's a much, much quicker way of holding those people to account.
Right.
And I think that for me is really what needs to happen in our constitution. It's 10 years plus old, and I think it is time we did a review and said, is it working for Kenya?
That's
I
the
don't
point.
share that view.
You don't share that view?
Me too.
Now, let's not, we're finding it always the excuse we give is the constitution.
Right.
Everyone in government blaming the constitution for this or that. I don't think so. And it's a matter I was talking about the other day. For example, blaming the many independent offices and commissions being established and devolution. This is why the government expenditure is large. Look at the budget. The total expenditure on the entire independent offices and commissions plus devolution is less than 10%. Correct. The money, 90% is being misused on misplaced priorities by the national government. The problem is leadership. Is the way they are misusing. There are no priorities. Money is being spent. The other day they increased the total expenditure for this year to 3.9 trillion. Last year it was 3.3. You increased by 700 billion. When you know your revenues are going down, you have got loans to pay, and you're increasing your expenditure by another 700-800 billion. So the question is really about the leadership.
But how do you
and so the problem is not the constitution. There are countries which don't even have constitution. You know,
Right.
Forget about the constitution. Even if you change all the 10 times, the problem is the leadership. It's the president and his team, the cabinet. These people must lead by example. We all know what is going on. You are appointed a minister, a small minister today. Tomorrow you won't have a dozen cars, or a dozen, in fact. Some of them in the new government. A dozen. One nyumbani lazima magari, shamba lazima magari, huko. You live large, very large. Expenditure of government is crazy. And projects are based on political expediency. It's not neat. You know, that's why a few minutes ago I was saying, every action, every policy, for example, they have tweaked every policy since they came in and made life unbearable. Why did you look at the G2G? Look at the attempt to restructure the entire NHIF. Look at they did 10, 20 different policy changes which have significant impact on the cost of living, when they could have done this on the medium or long term. You don't wake up and say we want to do all this at once.
At once, yeah.
But I think I agree with you, but how do you hold them to account?
It's there. The problem is there is no institution that wants to work.
No, but it's not working.
There is a very
it's
good
not
institution.
Working.
No,
it's
but,
not working.
But the accountability is me and you. If you have been appointed into an office to hold a particular government institution to account and you don't want to do it, you can't blame the law. It is that individual who's not working.
I think, I know that Gattuso is always saying, look, McPhee, you're always, advertising Rwanda here, and have you got a Rwanda passport? And you don't
have visa. You don't need a visa. Genuine one.
I went there without my passport. Actually, I went on my ID because passports. But anyway, the situation here is in Rwanda, the governors are civil servants. We had a governor in Nairobi who was a civil servant. Nairobi worked. So that works. So, Rwanda, I know that I'm always advertising Rwanda. But, if you see something that is working...
We do it through Arsenal.
If you see something working, okay, then, our Constitution is based on the American system. America is corrupt. It's corrupt. America is, it's almost, at the top level, it's almost the most corrupt country in the world, okay, at the top level.
Yeah.
So the situation is, let's look at our Constitution and say, look, this thing of electing governors and all the rest of it, I think actually it was even Ndi, when he was in Rwanda, President Kagame said, look, Ndi, should we have this number of people in Parliament? No. We need President Kagame cut the number of people in the Parliament in Rwanda. So you cut public expenditure.
But it's good. Why did he throw Day out of Rwanda?
Well, maybe for other, I don't know, other reasons. You got to tell me that. But anyway, the only thing is here we have a 50% increase in our Parliament. Okay, 50% increase. Now, you remember the Donde Bill? Yeah. The Donde Bill said, okay, in this case here, interest rates are capped, etc. In my profession, okay, in the audit profession, this created a crisis because, in fact, it was retrospective. Now, are there no lawyers in the House? There are. If they had read the bill, they would have said, look, this bill goes against our Constitution at that particular time. It's not constitutional. It cannot pass as law. But do the members of Parliament read the bills? The answer is no.
There's something I want to emphasize, which my brother brought here. And it's from where I come from. There's a saying we say, if the leader of the pack limps, the others will not have to kufikia nyazi. Look at the elephants. They're very clear. They give one elephant to be the leader because they know it will defend them. It will do the right thing. And that's what Bill is saying. You could have the best constitution, but the leadership say to hell with it. Or the best plan you have. if that leader is committed, and I keep saying this, Magufuli, because we believe in leadership, Magufuli convinced the Tanzania there was no COVID, which was a lie. There was COVID. But they believed him because he was the leader. There's a lot of power, there's a lot of respect of leadership, particularly with the African culture. Forget the Americans with their gay and all that rubbish. But when you look at the African culture, we're supposed to leaders. So we are calling the leadership of this country, and that leadership is the president. You have the responsibility to make this country great again.
Right. And that what Dr. Jim said is actually, you know, in Uganda, in Rwanda, it's the leader who's made the difference. It's not about the constitution. Correct. And here we are saying the problem is not the constitution, it's the leadership. I know. That's why we are saying, even if you shut down our parliament, what is the total budget of parliament? Is 40 billion. It will not change anything on your economy.
We'll do more.
Let me tell you, that's not where the issue is. Let us be the focus. What changed that country and other countries is about the leadership. If the leader says, I want A, B, C, D, right, people will follow.
And there are not two ways.
If the leader
we go
says,
this way.
It doesn't say it, then people do. So the reason why nothing changes in this country, the leadership, you know it. Everyone who comes in wants to go in the same way that, you know.
But Billy, let's be honest. If the leader tells you go down a cliff and that's the way they're taking you, we won't go there.
That's not a leader.
They lead you. Yeah. They lead you. I mean, you're talking about the quality of leadership, not leadership.
It took a gamut.
There's a different thing.
He took our draft constitution of bombers. Because I was in parliament then. Yeah. And he put them, he did his constitution review at State House. People were there 6 months. He reported there all the people whom he selected to come and do the work. 6 months, Ampo is the one running the thing. Says this one doesn't help us, remove it. This one is good, we'll take it. They took our draft, developed their constitution in 6 months. At the State House, no politics mingi. And then the issue is not even about, but getting it implemented. He's the one who does it. So he drives on a road, he sees a pothole, that mayor goes home. You drive on a road in a Kenyan president and he sees a pothole, he will not bother. That guy is appointed by him. He's his friend. Right. He looks at the politics.
He'll get re-elected. No, he'll drive on the wrong side.
If there was no re-election, and our presidents know they will be in office for 4, 5, 6 terms, they can do what that guy is doing.
So it's a quality of leadership.
The quality of leadership is practical.
Quality of leadership. Leadership is what is a quality.
Quality.
And for me, that is the key thing.
Correct.
Right? And that's the difference between a country that is going well and a country that doesn't.
Exactly.
Irrespective of the political system.
Exactly. Ever since I've been, of course, a young boy, I used to observe the ants. The way the ants sometimes, you know, they can actually be trailing one another on a straight line, right? But there is a leader there that emits sort of a chemical that they can smell.
Who doesn't take them to the cliff?
Who doesn't take them to the cliff, so to speak. And when this chemical is not emitted, the ants will go awry. They'll be all over the place because now they can't smell that particular, it's not a pheromone, I don't know what chemical it is.
Pheromone is for different things.
It's for different things, but it is that chemical that they can actually sense that makes them go in a straight line. Have you ever wondered, even if you put your finger there, still they'll realign themselves and go in a straight line?
That's a chemical we are looking for today.
That is a chemical that we are looking for. That chemical is happening today where President William Ruto is expected to give his second State of the Nation address to the joint August House. Kenyans want the president to address the issue of high cost of living, education and health, even as Energy CS Davis Churchill has told Kenyans to brace for high fuel prices. Brenda Zendaradido has more.
With the President William Ruto set to address the second State of the Nation address Thursday, Kenyans are hoping that the president will focus, among other things, the high cost of living, fuel prices, or even urge members of parliament to amend some sections of the Finance Bill 2023. Many businesses have been affected by the high cost of living, with some businesses being shut. In Kayole, Nairobi County, I met Goreti Otieno, a fishmonger who has been in this business for years. She paints for us a picture of how the cost of living has affected her business, forcing her to pass the costs to her customers.
Ulikuwa unaweza enda soko na 5,000, umenunua samaki. Ukikuja unatafuta tu salad, labda salad ya 400, ilikuwa inaweza choma hiyo samaki ya 5,000. Lakini kwa sahii utapata samaki ile tulikuwa tunabai kilo moja 250, sahii tunauziwa na 360. Ukinunua salad lita moja tulikuwa tunabai na 150, sahii lita moja tunabai na 240.
According to Goretti, her family's income has greatly been affected by the high cost of living due to low income from her business.
Budget ya nyumba tulikuwa tunaweza tumia kitu kama kuanzia breakfast mpaka supper. Tulikuwa tunaweza tumia kitu kama 600. Sasa hii imepanda mpaka 1000. Na ujue hiyo kitambo hiyo 600 ilikuwa inapatikana. Na sasa hii hata hiyo 600 huwezi pata hiyo 600 juu kila kitu imepanda.
A section of Kenyans say they have lost hope of this administration lowering the high cost of living. During UDA parliamentary meeting held at State House, Nairobi, Tuesday, legislators are said to have asked President William Ruto to look into the issue of high cost of living, saying it was affecting government's popularity on the ground.
William Ruto assented to the Finance Act that doubled VAT on fuel from 8% to 16%. That is where, fellow Kenyans, the rain started beating us.
I'm expecting life is going to be more difficult. I don't think there is any change. Actually, there is no any change. We are actually just operating between God and ourselves.
During the NADCO committee on Monday, Energy CS Davis Chirchir said Kenyans should brace themselves for higher fuel prices.
You can untie those hands by directing the same MPs you threatened to amend the Finance Act, starting with the VAT on fuel.
I might want him to address the cost of living, fuel in particular, but we have been warned that we should not expect anything.
Brenda Zeda Radido, KTN News.
And just looking at the dailies that we had as well, 300 shillings a litre for petrol on the cards. This is what you can just hear from the sentiments there. You are on your own. Cabinet secretaries tell dialogue team that things are beyond their control, and instead of putting in place measures to bring down the cost of living, Kenyans should brace for tougher times ahead. That is on page 5 and 4 and 5 of the Standard that we had just recently. Also, we want to follow up on the story of fuel, why we still have high prices on fuel. You've heard also from some of the leaders there, the 8% increments of VAT also exacerbated and compounded the whole problem. There is this particular deal that fell out, and KRA's hand is in this particular deal where we can see Kenyan transit fuel middlemen fined for 70 tons each on management fees or by oil marketers. KRA was charging 10 shillings per 1,000 litres, $10 per 1,000 litres of transit fuel. And this is all about rent-seeking, a tax on transit fuel cargo to Uganda by the Kenya Revenue Authority, it says, and management fees by local oil marketers selling petroleum products to Uganda are behind the latest round of protest by President Yoweri Museveni, who has accused Kenya middlemen for inflating fuel prices shipped to Kampala. Multiple players in the industry who spoke to Business Daily saying oil marketers charge a management fee for their handling service, which is also taxed by KRA at the rate of $10, that is 1,512 at current exchange rates per 1,000 litres of transit fuel. And it continues. I just wanted to show you what we have also in today's daily just regarding this. And Kenya also declines, this is one of them as well, Uganda's request to use pipeline. And it says here that an application by Uganda to use Kenya's pipeline to transport its fuel was in September turned down by Kenya on concerns that the move will displace local oil marketing companies from using the pipeline. Uganda will, from January the 1st, 2024, stop buying fuel from Kenyan farms after it entered into a 5-year contract with Vitol Bahrain EC, which will supply it with its entire fuel needs. Kenya supplies about 90% of Uganda's fuel, while 10% is sourced from Tanzania. The state-owned Uganda National Oil Company subsequently applied to Kenya's Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, in September to be registered as an oil marketing company in Kenya, which will allow it to import and export fuel like other OMCs and utilize Kenya Pipeline Company's pipeline. EPRA, however, declined UNOC's application because the Ugandan agency could not substantiate the requisite annual sales volumes of 6.6 million litres of either super petrol, automotive gas oil, that is diesel, and or jet 1 kerosene in Kenya. Another reason was The UNO could not provide evidence of operating 5 licensed retail stations in Kenya, operating a licensed depot in Kenya, or achieving a minimum annual turnover of $10 million. That is 1.51 billion shillings for the latest 3 years, which is a requirement for applicants who operations outside Kenya or who operates outside Kenya, right? We just want to look at this and maybe I can just begin with you first of all. Engineer Patrick Obath, you being also the immediate chair of the National Oil Company, and what really this does portend, because I can see the National Oil Company from Uganda also is smack dab in the middle of this as well. Talking about a conducive working environment or business environment, is this dead hand of bureaucracy also costing Kenya? Do you think this 1.5 billion shillings also that was a requirement to sink in is justifiable? Let's just look at it very more keenly and why prices in Uganda and Tanzania are actually on the downward trajectory. And here we have it now going upwards. The CS says 300 shillings per litre. I can see he's also now circled back on that particular word, so he's changed it completely. And looking at Israel and Hamas, the oil production and the oil cost, we're talking at $88.6 per barrel right now. It is going down. The situation in the Middle East is not in any way affecting the oil prices. But let's tease out and talk about this particular deal that went sour and it's costing us significantly.
Yeah, I think first of all, my being chairman of NOC has nothing to do with this. I was in the industry for years and that's what's more important.
You're in the industry for years, yeah, but I'm just talking about now your wealth of knowledge in this.
So, I mean, I think the first thing we've got to look at is, I think let me just go to this last thing you've talked about, the Uganda National Oil Company applying here. The rules that were set in terms of participating in the OTS was that you had to be working and trading in Kenya. That was the rules for OTS. It wasn't the rules for any other infrastructure. So the OTS, which is a tender system made, you really need to have a stake in Kenya in order to participate in the OTS. And that is why Uganda could not participate in the OTS and did it through Kenyan companies working in the OTS. So let's just look at OTS by itself. The use of the pipeline then was derived from there. But the idea of doing all this, that you need to have 5 petrol stations in Kenya, what have you, and everything else, was purely for commercial companies operating in the country. Now, when you go to a situation like the UNOC, that is a state corporation. And this is where G2G, much as that is now becoming almost a whatever word, right? That would have been an agreement between the government of Uganda and the government of Kenya, because the Kenya pipeline is a state corporation. And they can make accommodation in there. Now, 40%, or pretty close to that, 30-40% of the capacity in the pipeline is taken up for Uganda. All of it goes to Eldoret and Kisumu, and then it is exported from there. So when you say that Uganda is not going to use the pipeline revenues are going to drop drastically from that point of view. So we are shooting ourselves in the leg by going through these little things that are required instead of getting to an accommodation and agreeing on a tariff, a special tariff for UNOC in the pipeline, so that the pipeline can continue to actually operate as a commercial entity. And it's a state corporation. So putting all these other little things in here, 5 petrol stations, how much is that compared to a day's throughput in the pipeline in terms of money? So I think we really need to look at the bigger picture rather than what you're hearing there. Secondly, if you talk about the price of crude, which is, the price of oil around.
The Brent crude.
Yeah, the Brent crude. And Brent crude really doesn't affect us here, because ours is more on the cost of finished product, right? And the cost of finished product, the crude price is a benchmark, but there's a whole series of margins in between crude and finished product, right? And the way it gets here. So if you talk about the price of crude, it has been dropping since 2019, on average, on a year-by-year basis, right? From a high